here is my layered product, right? And doesn't that look so great?
Hello and welcome back to the Herbal Skillshare Marathon. In this session, we are going to be hearing from April Alexander, who is going to share a little bit about how she goes through the process to make bath salts. She talks about the different herbs that she uses and the salts that she uses, why she does that, and really just the skill, the simple herbal skill of how to make a product. This particular product, she likes to sell at markets, especially in wintertime, at Christmas markets and things like that. But it's applicable in all different ways of times of year and things like that too. But it's a great starting place for someone who is looking at like how to actually make a simple herbal product. So I'll just let her take it away from here and show you her process of making an herbal bath salt and how that comes about.
Yes, I wanted to make a bath tea today for everybody and just demonstrate that. So now the cool thing about it is when I first did this, I actually did this for little kids. And what I did was I actually, this demonstration, and I actually gave them mortar and pestles to actually crush the salt and stuff. And it just gives it just another kind of experience, especially for kids that are so tactile. I love making these for my family. And so in my family, especially in the winter months, calmness is really important in my family. Calmness, and we have dry skin issues. So between those two things, that's kind of what I make my bath teas around for this time of year. So the first thing that I'd like to talk about is salt. Now, salt is not all the same. Actually, interesting thing about salt is that salt actually is the base word for celery. And at one point in time, salt was actually worth more than gold, which I found that was like really kind of fascinating to me because I was like, no way. What was actually worth more than gold? Well, salt was. And there's a lot of different words that actually have a very, have a root in salt. And celery just happens to be one of them. Now, not all salt is made the same. Table salt is processed to the point where everything is devoid of any minerals or anything that is left. And then they add iodine back to it. So it helps with the lack of iodine in our lives, but it doesn't really help with anything else. And because of the process that it goes through, what it actually does is it actually depletes our bodies instead of builds it up. So I like to use mineral salts that still have the minerals in there. And so one of the ones that I really like is Himalayan pink salt. Now, Himalayan pink salt is also nice because it comes in so many different textures. So it looks really nice in the product. This one's actually, they're too small, so I can't really show you too. And then I also use Epsom salt because the way that, I don't know how it is in the rest of the world, but I know here in America, what they do is they've chosen to do farming with a lot of pesticides and herbicides, and it has depleted our soils of not only magnesium, but a lot of other minerals. But magnesium is really important for our bodies, and it really helps with like muscle cramping and, relaxing your nervous system and all these different things. So I feel like it's really important to put as much magnesium back into our bodies as possible. So then I also use Epsom salts. Now, the cool thing too about using Epsom salt and Himalayan pink salt is that they're different colors. So now, usually during Christmas season, I usually make it like a candy cane. So I'll do a little bit of white, then the next red, then a little bit of white, then the next red, just so that there's like a layering effect inside the jar. I only brought one measuring cup today, so I'm just going to mix it all together, which looks just as pretty. It's just not as festive, I guess, for, different holidays. So the recipe is 1 cup of salt, and you can do that in any variation that you'd like. You can use different kinds of salts. There's also, besides Epsom salt, there's other magnesium salts that are out there. There's magnesium glycinate, and then there's also magnesium citrate. So there's other magnesiums that you could use, which are just as good, depending on, the assimilation and what you're looking for in that process. There's also Dead Sea salt. I don't typically use Dead Sea salt anymore because Dead Sea salt is being overused and over-harvested. So just to be mindful and aware of that. Then there's also like you can use black lava salt to add a little bit of oomph to it, or, and not only that, but black lava salt also has a lot of minerals in it as well. So my proportions are usually half and half. So I'm gonna do a half a cup of Himalayan pink salt. Sorry, you're probably staring at my forehead. Which, look at how pretty that looks. I don't know if y'all can see it. My lighting doesn't wonder. And then a half a cup of Epsom salt. Now, in my family, I have a family of 6. So we go through a lot of Epsom salt. We probably do Epsom salt baths for detoxification probably like 3 or 4 times a week. So I buy these in like as big a pound bag as I can possibly find. And then these together, right? See how that would look in the layering effect? Now the cool part about this, I don't know if you guys can see that. The camera down a little bit, but there, maybe I could do both. Mix these together. You don't have to necessarily do it in a bowl, but I did today. And then after that, what I do is I'll put this portion of it into my jar, which is not going to be easy because I forgot my spout, but. So now you have a cup of Himalayan pink salt and Epsom salt in there. And you see, it still gives it like a marbled effect, which is really beautiful. And then what I do is I add herbs to that, which makes it even more nourishing and healing to the body and the system, right? And you can add herbs based upon what you like. I like to personally add a layered effect on top with the herbs because I just think it looks pretty. And at market, people are always like, wow, that's so beautiful. So these are Damascus roses, right? We all know that roses don't really smell too much anymore in our lives. And roses are really good, not only for the heart, but they're also really good for the skin. So they soothe and they cool the skin, especially dry, irritated skin that we tend to get in the winter time. And then I have calendula here. And calendula, this is some of the calendula that I've grown, that I've grown this year. And calendula is so great. It's a vulnerary, and it's really great at soothing the skin as well. And here we are, right? So we have the dry skin and all of that, but it makes it look really pretty. And then I have here some lavender that I grew. And lavender is really great for the nervous system. It's good for the skin. Who wouldn't want to take a bath in lavender, right? I'd like to rub it all over my body all the time. And lavender is just like, you know, you've had a hard day at work and you're like, I've had enough, or, you know, your kids are making you frazzled and, you know, everything's going wrong. Lavender is great, but it's also antibacterial and antimicrobial, which is great for what's going on in the world today. And then here's some chamomile that I grew as well, and I add that in too, because chamomile, even though it's such a gentle herb, it's such a powerful herb. I mean, it's one of those herbs that never went underground, right? So it's never went underground because it's so powerful and so useful for so many things. So this is good for any dietary, you know, like any digestive upset. This is really good for soothing your skin. They use it in a lot of bath and body products. This is actually even really good for oozy type infections or anything like pink eye or something like that you could possibly have. And calendula is also, not calendula, chamomile is also good for so many other things. And so I just, you know, it's good for calming, it's good for colic, it's good for so many things. And so then I add that. And so then at the end, here is my layered product. Right? And doesn't that look so great? And who doesn't want to receive a jar of beautiness, especially in the dark winter? So this is just one thing that I like to do with, you know, different herbs and things that I do. And, you know, I've been an herbalist for a really long time, but I didn't know I was an herbalist either. So it's funny how that works at the end. You know,
Yeah.
I was always interested in like natural products and stuff like that, but I never really knew that there was an actual word for it. So then when I found out about Rosemary Gladstar was my first teacher. And I was really excited when I found her, and she introduced me to the word herbalist. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can actually call myself something. And it was really kind of an interesting thing because I'm a mother of 4. You know, and so when I first went up there, everybody was little, and it was the first time I was away. I was actually like taking care of myself, which I never did before because I was so enwrapped in kids for so long. So it was funny because I kept going to Rosemary, can I have a hug? And she's like, what? She's like, you need a hug? I was like, I'm used to getting hugs all the time. I was like, I've been here in the mountain for like 2 days and I haven't gotten one. So it's really been lovely and lovely working with her. So I usually do it in a 16-ounce jar. It really has to do with your jar. And I usually use a quarter cup of each. That's usually my ratio for, like I break it up as far as like, so I have, it's a 16-ounce jar, so it's a cup of salt. So I only have a cup left of herbs that I can fit in there. But you can do more or less as long as, most the herbs that I used in that bath tea, none of them are toxic. So you don't have to worry about overloading on any of them. You can bathe in lots of them. So if you did 2 cups of everything, it would still be a good blend. So it's usually in a 16-ounce jar. So I'll do the 1 cup of salt and then a quarter cup of each herb. Usually I try to keep all my bath teas to a minimum of 4 herbs, but sometimes, it's the proprietary blend, right? So sometimes I'm like, oh wait, but I want a little bit more of this in there today, or and people like when they take I teach classes and stuff, but when people take my classes, sometimes I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna measure, and I'm like a pinch, add some, a handful, and they're like, well, how much is that exactly? So now I have to beforehand, I'm like, okay, this is how much I'm gonna use of each herb. And I try to get all of my herbs that I work with as fresh as I possibly can. So a lot of the times I'm working with small growers and different people. I'm lucky enough that I live down the road from an herbal CSA, so I'm a part of that, and I constantly have my hands in the dirt over there, which is fabulous. And so working with all these products and working, having them as fresh as possible, I feel well, and the ones that I make the most are my bath salts, elderberry syrup, and my elderberries. I usually, I can't wild harvest here because all the birds usually eat it, but I do order them from Healing Spirits Herb Farm, and I order them fresh all the time. And the cinnamon I get from Hawaii, from a friend who grows in Hawaii, and so this is actually the first year that I've actually started using the fresh cinnamon from Hawaii, and it has such a different flavor than those cinnamon sticks. So I'm really proud of that this year. And then fire cider. I always make a whole bunch of fire cider. And this year I really experimented and did all of the different kinds of things with fire cider. And so I made a turmeric rosemary fire cider this year. That is so good. You think you're sick, it'll knock everything out in 2 seconds. So those are the three or four things that I'm really kind of proud of this year. Of course, that varies year to year, depending on what's available in the growing season. Thank you. I really love teaching, and I like empowering others to, to take control of their life in some way, and not only that, but the more we can get our other people's hands in the dirt and, into the natural world, it just makes everything better, because then they become more aware, right? And then the whole world is a better place. It's not a bad thing.